Oh, wow. Oh, look at you there. Are you bored? Why have you come to the Clark the Shark Show at 1-800-449-8255? Why? Well, I don't know why, but you're here, listening to the golden tones from the golden EIB Sharkraphone. It's not a microphone, baby. It's a sharkraphone. Right here with the Wolfman Jack on crack. That's right. Clark the Shark. And I'm going to talk about Led Zeppelin 3. And this is a very unusual Zeppelin album in their collection of, they didn't have that many albums and they weren't around very long. Just, not even, I don't know if they were even around 10 years. The drummer died, and, we all remember how sad it was. But, man, I'm still sad. But Led Zeppelin 1 and 2 had this sound that was, Led Zeppelin 1 was just a shock to the world. It was just this explosive, bluesy, rock and roll like nothing anyone had ever heard before. I mean, there was Cream and Hendrix and, the Yardbirds and The Who and Janis Joplin and the Jeff Beck Group. But somehow Led Zeppelin 1 takes all that and mixes it like a soup and shakes it all around and bottles it and puts it on sale for triple the price, and you bought it. 1-800-449-8255, and it was worth every penny. And believe you me, I, Clark the Shark, I'm not the world's biggest Zepp head, but even I gotta admit, there's something about Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin 1, Jimmy Page. I don't think he's the world's greatest guitar player, but the perception is Jimmy Page is so great. When really, he's about equal or just slightly better than Pete Townsend of The Who. And I could say, that's true Jimmy versus Tony Iommi of Sabbath, or I think Richie Blackmore is way better than Jimmy. Come on, man. And Eric Clapton about equal or better than Jimmy, But Jimmy puts off this vibe, and there's this perception that he's just so great. Now, of course, John Bonham on drums is great. He is Led Zeppelin, in my humble opinion. Clark the Shark. But another thing great about Led Zeppelin 1 is Robert Plant has just this incredible, powerful voice that goes very high. And Robert Plant's this really tall, like 6'5" blonde dude with this big mane of hair. The girls loved him. He's like a taller version of Roger Daltrey. At 1-800-449-8255, the Clark the Shark Show. But, there's also something to be said for all the people that say Zepp is overrated. I don't know. The jury's out. I think, it's just, I have to admit, the album Led Zeppelin 1 was stunning. It really was the album in 1969, and it just went on to sell a lot of albums. I mean, love it or hate it, take it or leave it, for better or for worse. It was what it was. But the weird thing about Zeppelin is they are not what they are. They're one of those bands that's kind of tricky, confusing, and a lot of paradoxes and contradictions with this band. They're not as simple as the critics at Rolling Stone and all these magazines and Lester Bangs and all these people back in the day. There were a lot of critics that didn't like them, and they wanted you to believe that, oh, Zepp is just foppish. They're like Rod Stewart. I don't know, it's not fair to say that. But the first two Zepp albums 1 and 2 had this big sound, bluesy. Jimmy Page is just all over, explosive guitar playing. Bonham just hitting the drums hard, and Plant, explosive vocals that go very high. And of course, John Paul Jones, not a lot of people talk about him, but he's like a John Entwistle, just an incredible bass player. And not just that, John Paul Jones is like this arranger, mixer, producer, Swiss Army knife guy. He does it all. He's really an important guy in Led Zeppelin. And people forget that, but a lot of people know it too. There's 4 guys, but it's almost like John Paul Jones is the manager, along with Peter Grant or something. And Jimmy Page is like the producer, mixer, and everyone's just, high level of talent. I admit Zepp doesn't, they're not super funny. They don't have a lot of personality, but if you really dissect them, you find out they do. And they're really, for guys who party so hard, like these are 4 Keith Moons in one band. But for guys that are like that, they're also really responsible. I mean, they're all married. I think just Jimmy Page is the one that's just a psycho, drinking Jack Daniels and just drinking whole bottles of whiskey. The other guys do that too, but they're responsible about it. They all got wives and kids. Kind of like the Who, but they're even more responsible than the Who. I mean, and yet they still put off this thing that they're the biggest party animals in the world, and they are. They straddle the line. They do both at 1-800-449-8255. Now, Led Zeppelin 3 is a totally different sounding album from those 2 1969 albums. Led Zeppelin 3 comes out in 1970, and this album is way ahead of its time. There is some really nice sounding noise on this album. Now, the drawback, there's a bunch of drawbacks. It's very acoustic, and a lot of people were in shock. They're like, why is Zeppelin going so acoustic here? But I dig it. I love Tangerine and, Gallows Pole, and That's the Way. I love it, man. This is the Zepp album that Clark the Shark likes because it's such a weird album. And Robert Plant's vocals here are really screechy and shrill. They aren't strong vocals like Led Zeppelin 1 and 2. And the reason is a lot of partying, a lot of drinking, a lot of smoking cigarettes, and a lot of touring. Robert Plant's vocals are just blown out. And all the power in his singing has just gone out on this album, Led Zeppelin 3. And this whole album sounds less inspired than Led Zeppelin 1 and 2, and yet it's still really good. And it is Led Zeppelin's most interesting album, in the opinion of Clark the Shark. I like all the experimental acoustic stuff. I even like Robert Plant's weird, screechy animal singing. It's just high-pitched, and often it even goes out of key and out of tune. And he goes way too high on this album. And yet, him and Jimmy Page were talking about it. They're like, let's just try to go where no band has ever gone before and go really high and just go for it. And it almost sounds like Janis Joplin or something. It's super high singing on this album. I mean, way higher than Led Zeppelin 1 and 2. This album isn't as good as those 2 albums, and yet this album has things that those 2 albums do not have. This is an interesting Zepp album. And all being said, is this Oxford? What is that? It's like Bronner. That might be Oxford. I don't know. But, what's this? What is that? That's like, that's the cover. It's based on that. I love the cover of Zepp 3, I do. It gets good reviews, of course. Should get 5 stars for Zepp 3. Come on, you guys, it gets 4s. But, yeah, man, of course, the Immigrant Song. Awesome. Heavy and Friends. You know those two songs are great. Celebration Day, I really love. Great song, man. And Since I've Been Loving You, a Zepp classic. Bluesy. They're trying to sound like Zepp 1 and 2 with Since I've Been Loving You, but it's even better. Like they go to new heights and new places here. And Out on the Tiles, I love the Zepp originals where there's a bunch of nice Zepp originals. Celebration Day. They really bust out on this album and they become Led Zeppelin on Led Zeppelin 3. Led Zeppelin 1 and 2 have a lot of traditional arrangement, trad R blues. Plus they rip off and steal songs, and that's okay. You know, Clark the Shark does that at 1-800-449-8255. I mean, I get all these letters at Vimeo and emails of legal threats for my music. It must be good. I mean, I've checked out some of my songs that I think aren't stealing from other songs. And someone's like, no, that sounds like Killing Joke or something. Or, you know, I'm like, what? No, it doesn't. You know, like, Zapper original here on this album. It's really screechy, a thin production. This doesn't have that thick, tasty production of Led Zeppelin 1 and 2. This album sounds really canny, high-end, and, you know, too mid-rangey. But I love it. I love Zepp 3. I do. And, you know, I love, you know, Gallows Pole, Tangerine, That's the Way, and Bronner Our Stomp. All these acoustic, weird songs. And Hats Off to Roy Harper is weird. And you guys, I'm so sorry. Sometimes I miss songs when I do this. Some people have emailed me about the Beach Boys' Friends and the Beach Boys' Wild Honey and other albums. And they're like, Shark, you're missing songs. I'm like, I get so into this. Sometimes I skip right over some songs. I'm sorry, you guys, but believe me, I bought the vinyl of a lot of these albums I review. Scratchy vinyls down at the Rhodium in Torrance or Go Boy Records. And yes, I bought an original vinyl of Led Zeppelin 3. And I love it. I love Led Zeppelin 3. And I probably a bunch of great bonus tracks, B-sides, alternative mixes. And don't forget, you guys, Hey Hey, What Can I Do? Isn't on the album, but it's like, you can tell it belongs on this album. It's got that Led Zeppelin 3 screechy sound, but it's got even a bigger, nice, thick production than Led Zeppelin 3 has. And, yeah, the artwork. I love this cover of Led Zeppelin 3. 1970, I was just 5 years old, but I remember hearing this growing up all my life, and I love it. This is my favorite Zepp album, you guys. And I'm not the biggest Zepp head. And right now in Torrance and Redondo, they're like, oh, give me a break, Sharky. You don't love Zepp. And they're like, well, wait, he does have all the Zepp records. But they'd be like, come on, he likes Zappa more than Zepp. And that might be true. You know, people say I love The Who and stuff like that, or Deep Purple more than Zepp. But Led Zeppelin 3, man, there's something about this acoustic, atmospheric, I can't really say it's catchy or melodic, but it is. It's interesting. And this almost sounds like the album where the Yardbirds are coming through, you know, like Little Games, 1967, where like Mickey Most and Jimmy Page and, you know, Keith Relf. It almost sounds like Led Zeppelin 3 is a weird extension of Little Games by the Yardbirds. Maybe you could say that about Led Zeppelin 1 and 2 also. But this album especially, very interesting album. And this album makes me want to be a Zepp head. And honestly, if you were to hang out with the four guys in Zepp, these guys would hang out with you. You know, I always joke that these pranksters would probably be like laughing, joking with you, and then like just as you're about to sit down in your chair, Jimmy Page and Robert Plant would squirt like lighter fluid on on the chair, and then they'd light it, and you'd sit down on it, and they'd all be laughing, you know. I could just see Zepp being like merry pranksters like that. Like, oh, sorry, we just burned your testicles backstage. We're all drinking Jack Daniels and smoking pounds of marijuana and whiskey and beer. And we're stuffing fish up a girl's you-know-what. We're just stuffing fish. I mean, Zepp partied hard. These guys literally smashed backstage. They didn't even get to the hotel. I mean, Zeppelin smashed the limousine. These guys just pull out a baseball bat and just smash everything. I mean, Bonzo, he tried to keep up with Keith Moon, and believe me, John Bonham was one of the Hollywood vampires. This guy and John Lennon would do heroin and start laughing and start vomiting, and then they do more heroin, and then they'd like drink more. And yeah, man, these guys were just psychos. Harry Nilsson, John Bonham, Keith Moon, Alice Cooper, Mickey Dolenz, John Lennon. John Lennon couldn't even keep up with these guys down in 1972. Down on the Sunset Strip, you know, these guys would compete for who could get out on the sidewalk and puke and smash more things, you know. And then they'd all go back to Harry Nilsson's and maybe just drink and pass out at 4 in the morning in Malibu. All the Hollywood vampires. And Ringo, like Ringo, Keith Moon, John Bonham, Harry Nilsson, all the Hollywood vampires, Mickey Dolenz. I don't even know when they had time to party, but these guys partied. You could even say Jimmy Page is an honorary member of the Hollywood vampires. I mean, nobody partied like Zepp. The Who, I don't know, dude. Just Keith Moon. I mean, he's the partier, dude. But I don't know, dude. If you want the reality, John Bonham, you know, he just go shoot things with his shotgun. At 1-800-449-8255, the Clark the Shark Show. Legendary, dude. Zepp and Zepp 3. After these 3 albums, of course, Zepp would go into their scientific studio and craft in their little laboratory this 4th album that I think you guys all know. And I'm going to review that one. Yeah, runes or whatever, the 4 symbols, the 4 little logos. With Jimmy Page and Robert sit down and they write this long opus. And did they rip it off from Spirit? Maybe, maybe not. It does sound like Spirit. I think they should have just given Spirit royalties at 1-800-449-8255 on the Clark the Shark Show. But oh yeah, baby. These 3 Zepp albums sold like 100 million albums. Just these first 3 Zeppelin albums. They outsold The Who like 10-1. I mean, it took The Who, Tommy, and Live at Leeds a long time to catch up with Zepp 1, 2, and 3. And I don't think it ever caught up, man. But nothing caught up with Zepp 4. Led Zeppelin 4 sold like 50 million albums. And you guys, there is a reason why, baby. At 1-800-449-8255 on the fabulous, amazing Clark the Shark Show, the only shark in the universe, with the only review of this 3rd album from this 4-piece band from Birmingham and London or wherever they're from. They might even be from Liverpool. I don't know, but they're amazing. Led Zeppelin 3, my favorite of the first 3 Zepp albums. I love it. On the Clark the Shark Show, 1-800-449-8255. It's acoustic, it's mellow, and yet it's heavy. It's got it all. It's got great drums from Bonham. It's got great bass from John Paul. It's got screechy, annoying singing from Robert Plant, but I still love it. And of course, Jimmy Page. He's like, don't forget me, Clark the Shark. My guitar noodlings are amazing. And you will believe it too, and you will agree. I'm Clark the Shark, And you just got the gospel, the word, the only review that you'll ever need of Zepp 3, Led Zeppelin 3, baby. 1970. When I was in kindergarten, I was just 5. But baby, do I ever remember the immigrant song and Friends and Tangerine. I love these songs, you guys. Celebration Day, are you kidding? Since I've been loving you. Oh, baby, squeeze a lemon, baby. Clark the Shark, 1-800-449-8255, with just another amazing review, you guys. And thanks for all you guys who follow or friend or whatever they call it at YouTube. And I'm sorry, you guys, that I don't get a lot of views, or, it's early on. I'm still building this channel. I'm just now starting to believe in it. I've been kicked off YouTube so much over the years. I've been banned and deleted and shadow banned by YouTube going back to 2007, you guys. I've just given up on them for years. And here in 2023, I am really trying again recently. But likely they will ban and delete me, and they will delete this whole entire channel, just like they did all my others. But I'll always start a new channel somewhere, or you can watch me at Vimeo, you guys, or lots of other places on the internet where you can watch my band, The Fabulous Greenhouse Effect, at Blogger, at Vimeo. Just Google me, man, Greenhouse Effect songs, or Google Clark Hagen's songs, or Clark the Shark songs. And keep on rocking, you guys. Keep on playing my music. I love it. You guys in the South Bay, Redondo Beach, Torrance, Hermosa Beach, Manhattan Beach, El Segundo, Los Angeles, Gardena, Lomita, Hawthorne, Palos Verdes, San Pedro. You guys are the big... Man. I mean, I know you guys don't like me, and maybe I don't like you, but you love my music, and I appreciate that. Or maybe you do like me more than I'll ever know. But all over the country, Ohio, Youngstown, New York, Philly, Detroit, Chicago, Seattle, Billings, Stockton, everywhere, Kansas, Florida, all over Florida, man, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Washington, D.C., everywhere, man. You guys love my music all over the world, the UK, Ireland, Japan. You love the Greenhouse Effect songs, and I thank you guys, man. Thanks. I haven't played since 1992, but you guys keep the music alive. And Led Zeppelin, man. They're one of those bands, just like The Who, just like Deep Purple, just like the Beatles, the Stones and Zappa, the Moody Blues, and everything, man. All the punk bands, Black Flag, Bad Religion, The Germs, Sex Pistols, man, The Clash, The Jam, everything, man. You guys, all you bands, all you people, support my music. I love you for it, you guys. I'll come around the South Bay and hang out, man. Some night you'll see me again. I'd love to hang out. I just get the weird feeling, do they like Shark? Do they really like Shark? Or maybe they do love or like Shark or whatever. I don't know. But I don't even care, man. Just so long as you guys play my music, that means a lot to me. And keep playing stuff like Zeppelin, and keep buying stuff like Zepp or the Beatles or the Who or Zappa. All this old music. And if you're born in 2003, 2004, and you're a young person, listen to the music that Clark the Shark likes, like Led Zeppelin 3, you guys, or the Beatles, Help, or Rubber Soul, or the Who, Live at Leeds, or Tommy, or Deep Purple, the first 3 Deep Purple albums with Rod Evans, or Frank Zappa albums. Classic rock, or whatever you want to call it, man. You can call it whatever you want. It's the music that Clark the Shark loves. At 1-800-449-8255, the fabulous Clark the Shark Show, from the golden EIB Sharkerphone. That's right, the Wolfman Jack on crack, supported by you guys. And make my show grow, and tell other people to subscribe and hit like and subscribe. I don't even care if you do or you don't. I just hope you love the music and you buy the music of all these great bands that I review on here. Don't always buy just the hits or listen to the hit songs. I want you to listen to the B-sides and the bonus tracks and the songs you don't normally hear, the 8 tracks, the deep tracks, the deeper songs on side 2 that you normally wouldn't listen to. On all these albums, you guys. You heard about them from the Clark the Shark show. And I don't mean to knock those other reviewers on YouTube, but a lot of those guys just peruse records. They don't own the records. They don't have a vinyl collection like I do. Or it doesn't even matter. I don't care if you own the vinyl. I don't care if you own a CD. I don't even care if you own records or not. So long as you listen to the music, you learn about it. If you're 15 years old right now, go and Wikipedia all these bands and learn about The Who and Zeppelin and Sabbath and the Beatles and the Doors and Eric Clapton and all these great bands, Frank Zappa, Captain Beefheart. Just learn about all the bands, not just the hit bands at the top of Billboard. Learn about all the bands. Don't just listen to Zeppelin for Zepp 4 or Zepp 1. You got to listen to Zepp 3, you guys. You got to listen to Zepp 5, Houses of the Holy. Don't just listen to Physical Graffiti. You got to listen to Presence, man. I'm telling you, man, don't just listen to the Who's Next. You got to listen to Who by Numbers. You know, don't just listen to the Rolling Stones, Let It Bleed, and Sticky Fingers. I want you to listen to their Satanic Majesty's Request and all kinds of weird Rolling Stones albums. I want you to listen to Black and Blue, even if it's not the greatest album, even Emotional Rescue. Give it a chance and give it a try. Give all the music a try, especially the bonus tracky, B-sidesy 8 tracks that you would normally not listen to. Listen to Bubble Puppy, Hot Smoke, and Sassafras. Dig deep, you guys. Listen to the Music Machine. Listen to the Standells, the Count 5. Listen to all these underground bands from 1967, Tangerine Dream. And listen to Tangerine on Zepp 3 at the Clark the Shark show. And I'm out of here, people. Love all of you guys. Peace.